Benedict Arnold, the hero who sold his country for cash. He was one of the most brilliant military commanders America had. He nearly died fighting for independence, took a musket ball through the same leg twice. Then he sold the plans to West Point for the equivalent of what would be millions of dollars today, and the only reason it didn't work was that his contact got caught with the documents stuffed in his boot. By 1780, Benedict Arnold had already spent years as one of the most genuinely effective and celebrated military commanders in the Continental Army, a man whose battlefield leadership during the early years of the American Revolutionary War had proven so consistently valuable that even George Washington himself regarded Arnold as one of his most capable and trusted generals. Arnold's military record included leading a grueling, near-impossible expedition through the Maine wilderness to attack British-held Quebec and playing a decisive, celebrated role in the pivotal American victory at the Battle of Saratoga, a battle historians widely consider the turning point of the entire war, since the resulting American victory convinced France to formally enter the conflict on the American side. Arnold's transformation from celebrated war hero to history's most infamous American traitor stemmed from a genuinely complicated combination of personal grievance, financial desperation, and mounting resentment that built steadily across several years. Despite his significant battlefield contributions, Arnold repeatedly found himself passed over for promotions he believed he'd rightfully earned, watching less experienced officers advance ahead of him due to political connections and regional favoritism within the Continental Congress that Arnold felt consistently disadvantaged him. Compounding this professional frustration, Arnold faced serious, ultimately unfounded corruption charges related to his conduct as military governor of Philadelphia. Charges that, while he was formally acquitted, still resulted in a formal reprimand from Washington that Arnold experienced as a genuine, humiliating betrayal after years of loyal, costly service that had already left him with a severely wounded leg that would trouble him for the remainder of his life. Arnold's financial situation compounded these professional grievances considerably. He had married Peggy Shippen, a young woman from a wealthy, socially prominent Philadelphia family with documented loyalist sympathies, and Arnold's lifestyle, combined with mounting debts from years of funding portions of his own military campaigns using personal resources that Congress had been slow to reimburse, left him in genuine escalating financial distress by 1779, creating exactly the kind of desperate circumstances that made Arnold receptive when British intelligence officers began cultivating a secret relationship with him, initiated partly through correspondence, facilitated by his own wife's prior social connections to British officers who had occupied Philadelphia. Arnold began secretly communicating with British Major John Andre, the British Army's chief intelligence officer in North America, in 1779, initially providing relatively minor military intelligence in exchange for payment, before eventually maneuvering himself into command of the critical American fortress at West Point in 1780, a position of enormous strategic value given the fort's control over the Hudson River, and one Arnold specifically sought out, according to historians studying his surviving correspondence, precisely because it offered him the opportunity to deliver something considerably more valuable to the British than routine intelligence, the fort itself. Arnold negotiated an agreement with British Commander Sir Henry Clinton to surrender West Point and its garrison to British forces in exchange for a payment historians estimate at roughly £20,000, a genuinely enormous sum for the era, equivalent to several $1 million in modern currency, along with a formal commission as a brigadier general in the British Army. The plan called for Arnold to weaken the fort's defences under various pretexts while providing British forces with detailed plans and troop deployment information that would allow them to capture the strategically vital fortress with minimal resistance. The plot unravelled through a combination of bad luck and basic operational carelessness. Major Andre, travelling back toward British lines after a secret meeting with Arnold to finalise the specific details of the betrayal, was stopped by a group of American militia volunteers near Tarrytown, New York. Andre, disguised in civilian clothing rather than his British uniform, a decision that would later prove critical to his fate, was searched, and the militiamen discovered detailed papers describing West Point's defences and troop positions hidden inside his boot. documents written in Arnold's own handwriting, providing undeniable, direct evidence of the plot. When word of Andre's capture reached Arnold before American authorities could act on the discovered documents, Arnold, recognizing his imminent exposure, fled immediately, escaping down the Hudson River to a waiting British ship, narrowly avoiding capture himself by mere hours, leaving behind his wife, who convincingly performed apparent hysterical distress before American officers investigating the plot, a performance some historians believe may have been at least partially genuine, given the sudden collapse of her husband's plans, though others suspect she may have had direct knowledge of and involvement in the conspiracy from its earliest stages. Major Andre, despite pleading his case and requesting execution by firing squad as befitting a captured military officer rather than the specific fate reserved for spies, was tried by American military tribunal, found guilty of espionage, and executed by hanging, a death Washington himself reportedly found genuinely regrettable, given Andre's evident personal character and the widely held view, even among American officers, that Andre had simply been performing his duty as an intelligence officer rather than acting with any particular personal malice. Arnold, having successfully escaped to British lines, did receive his promised commission and a portion of his payment, though considerably less than the full amount originally negotiated, and spent the remainder of the war leading British military operations against his former countrymen, including brutal raids against Virginia and Connecticut communities that further cemented his reputation among Americans as history's most reviled domestic traitor. Following the war's conclusion, Arnold relocated to England, where he found himself received with considerably less enthusiasm and reward than he had anticipated, since even British society, having benefited directly from his betrayal, generally regarded turncoats with genuine lasting suspicion and distaste, leaving Arnold to spend his remaining years in relative financial and social disappointment, never achieving the wealth, status, or lasting respect he had betrayed his country specifically to obtain. What makes Arnold's story endure as America's defining historical symbol of betrayal isn't simply the scale of the plot itself, though the potential loss of West Point could have genuinely altered the war's outcome had the plan succeeded, but the specific, uncomfortable complexity underlying his motivations, a genuinely skilled, battle-tested military commander, wounded multiple times in service to a cause he had once believed in completely, whose accumulated grievances, financial desperation, and wounded pride ultimately proved more powerful than years of demonstrated loyalty and sacrifice, a transformation so complete and historically significant that his name itself became, and remains today, America's permanent shorthand for betrayal. If stories like this, where history's most celebrated heroes turned out to have a price after all, are exactly what you come here for, subscribe to The Grave Details, because history holds more stories like this than most people will ever know.